Hi everyone, #1 Marmaduke fan here. I was looking at this one and I actually thought it was a pretty okay cover, especially compared to issue 16, but then I took a second look at it and I'm noticing some things, and I think I'm going to do another cover critique. So, first off, a while ago, you saw me do my vid on Spider-Gwen, where I said if you take your glasses off, you can get a feel for color harmony and composition. And then if you squint your eyes really narrow, you can actually erase color and start seeing value. So when I squint, what I notice is that these two are darker and everything else is lighter compared to them. And when I just have my glasses off and I'm just looking for color, well, I see a little red there, blue-green behind them, and a lot of red down here. But nothing really pops. You can't really tell what's going on if from a distance, right? You're simulating the idea of holding something at a distance by taking your glasses off. You could literally hold it at a distance as a way of doing that if you have 20/20 vision. So in painting, this is a painterly cover. It's using probably watercolor. And in painting, three things you should be checking for are value, hue, and chroma. Value is the lightness or darkness of the colors you're using. So they're dark. The background is lighter. That's good. If you want your center of interest to be noticeably darker or noticeably lighter than the stuff you want people to pay less attention to. So that's value. Excuse me. Hue. Hue is essentially just another word for where on the color wheel the color is. So red hue, blue hue, green hue. Problem is hues are kind of all over the place. So they're kind of red and white and black. And this is all red with a little green and blue mixed in. And this is all blue, green, brown, white, orange. So if red is, we're kind of stuck with red since that's in their costume. So let's make red the primary color to make them pop. And I don't know, let's say green is a little Christmassy, so let's just say blue-green is the predominant color in the background. And I would have a blue-green wash over everything that isn't them, so that then the red pops in contrast to the blue-green. That's hue. And then chroma. Chroma is the intensity of the color. The higher the chroma, the more intense it is. And sometimes you can have a problem of having a bright neon color and everything else is muddy, and then the neon jars and it doesn't fit with anything. This is kind of a red-violet, so it's not jarring, but it's also not popping. You could even fix this a little in digital. That might be where if you can't quite get it in the traditional watercolor, you could do a little futzing digitally to make that work. But I would actually ironically make everything in the background a little bit more dingy, a little less bright, a little more brown. If you put a blue-green wash over everything, then everything would naturally, like the yellows would become, the blue-greens would stay a nice bright blue-green, but the browns and the whites and the oranges would get to a more dull color. And then their red would pop by comparison to that. I would have, I don't know, since it looks like they're mixing their red with purple, maybe that's as high chroma as they could get in watercolor, so I would pretty much just affix that in post to make the red pop a little bit more. And this pose is also annoying me so much, so my OCD came out, it beat up my ADHD, and now my OCD wants to fix this. Okay, so measuring heads, one head, two head to the breast, pretty good. And I'm not doing that because I'm a perv. You actually, male or woman, that's kind of like the key checkpoint you're looking for with heads. Okay, so head to breasts to navel to crotch. Boy, this sounds so pervy, but those are actually like the eye posts you can look for on a male or a female body. So there's where the crotch is, and your buttocks are supposed to connect to your crotch. Gosh, this is the most pervy art critique thing ever, now that I hear myself talking out loud. But the problem is that this leg is drawn sideways, but the rest of her body is saying forward in space. This is supposed to be a foreshortened thigh with her knee jutting forward in space, and especially with this leg bending the opposite way, this shouldn't be a sideways leg. This should be a leg jutting forward. So I'm just going to fix this to help calm my OCD. So, I mean, part of the reason I wasn't too annoyed at it is I was kind of seeing this as a bit cheesecakey, where they're allowing her to have a bit more of an exaggerated feminine form, unlike Marvel. This is, and what is it? Artemis looks really nice. So these are much more feminine girls and much more masculine men than the average Marvel comic. But that hip is so jarring and out of place, and it's not connecting to anything on her body. So even that's helping me accept it a little more. And then to help people understand that it's a foreshortened body, I would have brought the leg up a little bit. Okay, that is the, and her boobs are squishing, her arm, where's her arm connecting? That's a little weird. I guess if it's behind something, you can get away with a little bit as long as it's not horribly obviously wrong. So maybe there's something a little funny going on with that, but since that's behind so much stuff, I'm not going to try to work that out. That was the only thing that was really bugging me. All right, I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. I kind of like doing this. I think since I'm buying variant covers, I was buying variant covers just to have digital codes to give away. But if I'm buying variant covers anyway, I think it'd be fun to kind of pick the best one and give an art critique of why the best one's the best one, and maybe roast bad elements of the bad ones. But I just had a really bad cover previously that kind of annoyed me. And then looking at this, then I could my OCD couldn't quiet down, so I had to do something. Love you guys. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. Oh, let's simulate adding like value to the background too, to see if I can help these guys pop forward a little bit more. All right, I am so professional, guys, using my pillow as a little desk here to try to reduce glare. But all right, so light strokes to try to imagine we're adding more. The problem is they're so dark value, this may not help, but this might help kind of indicate what it would be like to reduce the chroma of the background a little bit. So I probably wouldn't use black. I would use sort of light gray washes over everything to lower that chroma. But this will kind of simulate the idea of taking out some of that intense color from the background and letting a little bit more of it show. You know, it might even be better if, they're being lit up by lava, so it might even be better if they were actually the lightest part of the composition and the rocks in the background were the darkest parts of the composition. So let's even make it a little bit more shading heavy here. There we go. Okay, let's add a little bit more since that bright white is so bright. This is not good shading, by the way. This is not good crotch hatching. I'm just scribbling this out. I like to, when I'm serious about it, I like to feather. And feathering is something I think I've only been able to do it just by drawing a lot and practicing it until it feels natural. But once you get it to feel natural, it's like riding a bicycle, and then it just comes to you. And part of it is just not being so scared to draw that you don't start, like when you have that white piece of paper in front of you and you're scared to touch it because it's a $3 sheet of paper, that's the hard moment. And once I'll sometimes even scribble or draw a giant X on my sheet of paper so that mentally I'm not worried about screwing up the drawing anymore. You know, just put a little swooly doop somewhere. And then once you're not worried about ruining the piece of paper, then you can just start building up your lines and figuring it out. There we go. Oh, that's looking so much better. Oh, but there's some brights here. I mean, it'd be boring if it was just jet black. So all we're really doing is imagining what if it was a darker color scheme in the background. So let's look at that. Okay, now she's really popping. She's almost too bright. I think I added too much black. I went too far in the opposite direction. But it does illustrate my point. Now let's hold this out ways a ways and look at that. So she's still too dark for this to work really well, but I would have liked that as a composition much better. Anyway, #1 Marmaduke fan, that's all. I'm not going to stretch it out. Catch you later, guys. Love